All right, let's go ahead and talk about Tesla. The company has been on an absolute tear for the last 10 years, growing at about 56% per year since 2013. In that year, the company sold about 21,000 cars, and at the end of 2023, Tesla should sell somewhere around 2 million cars globally. That's a 100x in the last 10 years. And what's even more impressive is that in 2024, this could be the company's best year yet. I spent the last few weeks looking at a bunch of market data, looking at a bunch of different data sets and studies that are out there for electric vehicles in the broader car market, and I've come across 4 different variables that are really going to dictate how Tesla is going to perform in 2024. Now, here are the 4 variables that I'm looking at. EV demand, troubles at legacy automakers, specifically the big 3 in GM, Ford, and Stellantis, changes to the federal EV tax credit, and the launch of Tesla's brand new product, the Cybertruck. I think these variables are going to make Tesla sell basically every car they can make. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first one, which is EV demand. Let's start with a study from the Pew Research Center. This poll was conducted in the US and it asked a very simple question. How likely are you to seriously consider purchasing an electric vehicle for your next car purchase? And 38% of adults said that they're somewhat or very likely to consider an EV for their next purchase. Now, to put this in context, the US has about 15 million new car sales per year, and 38% of 15 million is roughly 5.7 million that are somewhat or very likely to consider buying an electric vehicle for their next purchase. Now, if we compare this to how many EVs are built for the US market, it's about 1.5 million units per year, 65% of those 1.5 million being Teslas. Now, if we compare how many EVs are built to be sold in the US versus how many people could want an EV, there's about a 4 million unit difference. And so at first glance, this should say that there's a lot more people out there that could potentially buy an EV versus how many EVs are sold. And there's a couple more data points that back this up. If we go a little bit further in that Pew Research study, we can see that 68% of people that already own hybrids and electric vehicles would consider an EV for their next car purchase. Now, I want to take that number and put it next to a Washington Post and a University of Maryland study that also covers electric vehicles. This poll asked, regardless of how much they might cost, which type of vehicle would you rather own? And although 46% of people said they would prefer owning a gas-powered vehicle, about 54% would prefer to own either a hybrid or an electric vehicle, with 19% of those people wanting specifically an electric vehicle. Now, the interesting thing there is that a majority of Americans, 54%, would rather have a hybrid or electric versus a gas car. And now that we know that about 68% of current hybrid and EV owners would consider an EV for their next purchase, this means that there's a ton of households out there that would be looking to buy an electric vehicle. Now, to put some sort of rough number to quantify what this actually means, there's roughly 124 million households in the United States, and so that 38% number of would-be buyers for electric vehicles equals to about 47 million households, and each household in the United States has an average of 1.88 cars per household. Multiplying those two numbers means that there's about 88 million cars out there in the United States that could potentially go electric over time. And at the current production capacity of about 1.5 million units per year, it would take roughly 60 years to turn that entire fleet over to electric. Now, even with Tesla's plan to grow 50% year over year, there's still a ton of room to grow. But the next question becomes, after we look at this data, is why aren't people buying electric vehicles? And one of the main reasons why is price. According to an Autolist.com study in 2023, 42% of car shoppers don't buy an electric vehicle because they're too expensive. And so for a company like Tesla to be successful, they really need to make sure they're meeting the expectations of shoppers from a price perspective. Now, if I look at Tesla's website today, the Model 3 starts at around $38,000 and the Model Y starts at around $43,000. Now, a lot of folks feel that that pricing is more than good enough to get people to switch over, and it's awareness of that pricing that's important. If you want to learn more about that specific dynamic, I'll link to a video from Rob Maurer from Tesla Daily in the comment section below that I recommend you check out in case you want to understand this dynamic a little bit better. But in the case where awareness is not really the issue and it's the actual price of an electric vehicle that needs to be lowered, starting in 2024, there's going to be changes to the federal tax credit that will make this easier for shoppers. And that's going to be the next variable we're going to talk about on this video, which is the second variable for Tesla's success in 2024, the changes to the federal EV tax credit. Now, if you're looking to lease or loan the cheapest Tesla, in this case the Model 3, it's $605 a month at $4,500 down. Now, with the change to the federal tax credit, instead of waiting for the end of the year to file your taxes, instead the automaker will include the $7,500 credit up front, which means that the monthly payments should go down on average by about $150. Now, this is very important because most shoppers in the United States, when they're looking for a car, are payment shoppers. Now, to explain this dynamic a little bit further, here's a clip from my conversation with Ray and Zach, where Ray describes what this means. Ray has been in the car dealership business for decades and really understands the car market. Take a listen.
I would say that the vast majority of people in this country are what those of us in the industry would always refer to as payment buyers. All they concern themselves with is what the monthly payment's going to be. They don't concern themselves with the price of the car. They don't necessarily concern themselves with the down payment that they're asked to put down. And they definitely don't concern themselves with the length of the loan in order to get that payment to be affordable. Now, having said that, those very payment buyers want to get as much car as they possibly can for that payment that they're looking for.
And so it's probably reasonable to expect that sales for Teslas will go up because it will become more affordable at the point of sale for more people. And additionally, Tesla could pass on even more savings as the ramps for their Austin factory and their Berlin factory continue, as well as expansions at their Fremont factory and their Shanghai factory. This will allow Tesla to lower costs per unit through economies of scale, which essentially means that they're pushing more material through the same cost structure they have, lowering the costs for each car, which could also mean passing on those savings to the customer. And if this wasn't enough, Tesla's competition will likely get even more expensive in 2024 due to the UAW strikes of the big three automakers. Now, before we get into the UAW strikes, I would love it if you give me a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this to more people. And if you want to support the channel, super easy, click subscribe right below this video. Thank you so much. Now, there's a big fight between the UAW union and the big three, which is Ford, GM, and Stellantis. The union is looking to get 40% higher wages and a 32-hour work week down from 40 hours. Now, if the union were to get its way, this would add about $80 billion of cost per year to all three automakers combined, which could reduce profits by almost half for some of these automakers. And what's challenging about this dynamic is that regardless of the outcome, legacy automakers are likely in a lose-lose scenario. If they can't arrive to a deal with the union, this means that factories will shut down due to the strikes, which means no cars sold, which means no profits. But if they do reach a deal, this is going to mean higher costs for the automakers, which is going to reduce their profits. And as public companies, the last thing you want is a reduction in profits for your shareholders. And what's more is that the higher costs come at a very bad time for these automakers as they're looking to ramp up their EV production, which will be in direct competition with Tesla. For the second quarter of 2023, as an example, Ford lost about $1.1 billion in its EV division alone. And with the higher wages, what this probably means is that Ford's ability to turn a profit on EVs is going to be harder. And because of this dynamic, I fully expect these automakers to raise prices across all their models, including their electric vehicles. Or at the very least, they'll focus on specific trims that are more expensive to sell, but cost about the same to try and shore up some of those profit losses. However, the thing that's really troubling here is that on a like-to-like basis, Tesla is already significantly cheaper on a cost per mile basis. And so if we look at a comparison of electric vehicles, if we remove the Chevy Bolt compact from GM, Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y offer the most range per dollar spent. And this is already an issue because range is the second biggest reason why somebody wouldn't buy an electric vehicle. So Tesla already has a price advantage, they'll likely get a bigger price advantage, and Teslas offer more range per dollar spent, and that's only going to get better if the competition has to increase prices while Tesla reduces theirs. And if we already didn't have the perfect storm for Tesla to be successful in 2024, there is that fourth and final variable that's probably going to set the internet on fire, and that is the Cybertruck. Love it or hate it, the triangle on wheels is coming. As you can see from these videos, they're starting to show up everywhere in Texas and California specifically. We have pictures of it in an F-150 wrap, in a Tundra wrap, in a Camel wrap. And even though this thing has been hyped for the last 4 years, Tesla should start deliveries here in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, what's important to keep in mind here is that about a quarter of new cars sold in the United States are pickup trucks, and Tesla will be entering this market for the first time in its history. The company thinks it can get to about 250,000 to 500,000 units per year at full ramp, and in 2024, my gut says they'll probably end the year at about 100,000 unit run rate. This will be around 3% of Tesla's total sales in a year, but it's going to be a significant number of trucks on the road that should bring a ton of attention. From a pricing perspective, we don't know the pricing yet as of the date of this video, but my assumption is it will come in somewhere around $70,000, probably plus or minus 5,000, with a range of about 350 to 400 miles. This range in price is pretty consistent with how Tesla prices its current models against its competition, and at that level, it will be extremely competitive against the likes of the Ford F-150 Lightning, the Rivian R1T, the Chevy Silverado pickup EV, and other pickup trucks as well. Not just EVs, but gas pickup trucks as well. Now, if my assumptions on pricing are correct and it comes in under $80,000, this will also qualify the Cybertruck for the federal EV tax credit, which again will be taken at the point of sale starting in 2024, which will make the price of the Cybertruck somewhere around the high 60s, low 70s, including that incentive. And now you have a combination where you have a pickup truck that's going to be quite the looker, either good or bad. It's probably going to be featured in every rap and hip hop music video out there in 2024, but it's going to be available at a somewhat affordable price for what you get, especially if you compare it to the broader pickup truck market in the US. And in a very similar way that the Model 3 and the Model Y brought more customers for Tesla for the Model S and X, the Cybertruck should have the same exact impact for the rest of Tesla's lineup. All in all, I'm super excited for 2024. Tesla should have a banner year, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching.